Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Thank you for gathering here this weekend. We are going to explore part of the history of Dhruva Maharaj. Why have I chosen this section of Srimad Bhagavatam to discuss with you? It's because, as the Acharyas point out, and as Srila Prabhupada certainly points out, just by hearing some of the history of Dhruva Maharaj, you can develop detachment from material existence, number one, determination in executing bhakti, number two, and number three, you come closer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But I have a different theme that's underneath all those 3 points. Dhruva Maharaj is showing that you can still engage in bhakti with material desires. Because so often the question comes up, oh, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, it's all so glorious, but I have these desires. Maybe many of you feel that way. You want to please Krishna. At the same time, what about comfort, wealth, money, social prestige? Prosperous family, what about all that? Is there any room in bhakti for all that? Or do you have to begin as a pure devotee? So first of all, let me ask you all a question. How many of you came to Australia looking for Krishna? Raise your hand. I don't see one hand. Yet somehow, most of you here have started chanting Hare Krishna, reading Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, associating with devotees, taking prasad. What happened? So you are the proof that you can approach Krishna with material desires. It's not that your motivations were completely pure in coming to Australia and even in starting your bhakti. Most of you have hopes for good position, big house, intelligent children, investment properties. All these hopes and dreams are there, and so you may be thinking, I don't know if I can proceed in bhakti. It seems that bhakti is only for the pure devotee. But remember, what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? He explains 4 types of persons approach him, and they're all meritorious. Number 1, someone who's distressed. Number 2, someone who is inquisitive, just curious about what might be beyond the material existence. Number 3, someone who wants wealth, like Dhruva Maharaj. And number 4, someone who wants knowledge. Generally, such a person is thinking, I want special knowledge, spiritual knowledge, but they're not specifically thinking about Krishna. But yet, they approach Krishna with those motivations. Give me relief from distress. Give me money. Satisfy my curiosity. Give me knowledge of the spiritual energy. Krishna says all of them have sukriti, auspicious merit. because they're approaching Krishna. So from this weekend, we want you to take away the confidence and determination that even with your material desires, the best thing is still to engage in Krishna service as a bhakta. This is what we want you to take away. And you'll get that feeling, that conviction, that determination by hearing about Dhruva Maharaj, who had the biggest material desires of all, yet under the guidance of Narada Muni, his spiritual master, he executed bhakti, and then an amazing transformation happened. So when you hear about Dhruva Maharaj, you're hearing about the biggest material desires. We'll find out what those biggest material desires are, which would make anything you materially want look like peanuts. So you should think that if such a transformation can happen to Dhruva with his huge material desires, what to speak about you with your tiny material desires for a little wealth, a house, nice children, nice spouse. That's all right, but Dhruva's desires were huge. His material desires were huge. Yet, he underwent a transformation because he strictly followed the instructions of his spiritual master, Narada Muni. So it's a long history. We'll take various excerpts of it. But first we need to clarify where we're at in terms of, do we live in a human civilization? How many of you think that you live in a truly human civilization? Raise your hands. How many have doubts? Raise it. Yes. How many are sure this is not the way humans should live, the so-called present civilization? Yes. I've been explaining, for those of you who have attended class at the Melbourne Mahaprabhu Mandir, I've been explaining the ingredients of a real human civilization. Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. How many understand those four terms known as the Purushartha? Raise your hands. Okay, let me explain. These are the four ingredients of a real human civilization, as explained by the Vedic knowledge. Number one, Dharma. Dharma means ritualistic activities for elevation to a higher level. Material prosperity in this life and the next. Material prosperity and comfort now and in the future. That is all based on Dharma, ritualistic religion. So this is still material, but it's the Vedic way of elevated materialism. Or looked at another way, anything other than Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha is not human civilization. So the Vedic idea, the Vedic conception is, first, there's Dharma. Some of you have dabbled in that due to your family traditions. A bit of puja here, right? A bit of donation to a so-called brahmana there. How many of you, when it was time to do your major exams in India, how many went to the temple of Saraswati? Raise your hand. Yes, so that's a remnant of true Dharma. You had some idea that if I want to get a certain material prosperous result, I need to do some rituals, some pujas. So in the Vedic formula, first there's Dharma, ritual, religion. We're not talking about bhakti. We're talking about Dharma, which brings about Artha, economic prosperity. And with economic prosperity, what do you do with that? You don't know.
Buy house and car.
That is all under the category of number 3, karma. So dharma leads to artha, and artha leads, economic prosperity is for sense gratification, as someone said, for enjoyment. And then, how does moksha enter into the picture? How many of you came to Australia looking for moksha? Liberation from material existence. But according to the Vedic system, after you have karma, sense gratification, then you get tired of it and you think, oh, this is hard work for a lot of frustration. Is there anything beyond? And then you're ready for moksha. But what do we have in today's so-called human society? No dharma. In India, you'll see traces of dharma, ritualistic ceremonies for material prosperity. Just like many of you admitted, you went to the temple of Saraswati, paid some brahmana. How much? What's the going rate? 50 rupees?
20 rupees.
20? You paid 20?
More than, now it's 50.
No. So you had no idea whether this was going to work or not, but you figured, good investment, in case it works, 50 rupees, all right. That's, as I said, a remnant of real dharma. But today we have just artha and kama, material development for the purpose of sense gratification. Dharma has disappeared practically, only little traces are left in India. And then moksha, liberation from material existence, who's thinking about that? So in order to appreciate the history of Dhruva Maharaj, you have to know something about these 4 ingredients, the Purushartha. Because ultimately, I'll give you advance notice, ultimately we're going to Panchamam Purushartha, the 5th category, and that is bhakti. So today everyone simply cares about economic prosperity and sense gratification. That is not, from the Vedic standard, considered a human society. It's considered animal life. And then what else? What other ingredients are there in a real human civilization according to the Vedas? You have the 4 ashramas, the social orders, and you have the 4 occupational orders. Many of you, in fact, most of you will become grihastas, married persons, but grihasta is a very elevated term. It doesn't refer to just anyone who's married. It refers to a family that is spiritually motivated, that has Krishna in the center. And, as you know, they're brahmacharis, Arjuna Saka Prabhu, wonderful brahmachari. There's sannyasis, just a few of them, not too many. And in a real human civilization, there's vanaprastha, those who have retired from family life and are fully focused on their spiritual development. And then on the occupational side, what do you have? Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. No question of categorization by birth. Everything is by, as Krishna says in the Gita, guna karma, by your qualities and by your activities. What do we have today? Do we have any brahmanas, kshatriyas, vaishyas, sudras? We actually, you know, sudra means laborer, but in a general sense, in a more accurate sense, sudra means anyone who's working for someone else. That's considered 4th class. The brahmanas, the kshatriyas, the vaishyas, the priestly class, the administrators, the merchants, the money makers. They are considered the higher classes, which the Shudras assist and are dedicated to pleasing their master. But to call someone a Shudra these days is a great compliment, because the reality is everyone is less. They're not dedicated to serving a master, they're dedicated to serving their senses and just money. That's it. So that's not considered fourth class. That's not considered Shudra. That's considered Panchama, fifth class. Outside of the Vedic purview, outside of the Vedic scope. Brahmanas are independent. They are fully dedicated to knowledge, and they live by donations. Kshatriyas, they are dedicated to keeping law and order. They don't work for anyone. They can levy taxes because they're offering protection to everyone. And then, of course, the Vaishyas, the merchants, the agriculturalists, they are in business for themselves. It's only the Shudras who work for someone. And they're supposed to be very dedicated to their master who provides them with everything. But we don't have such dedication in the workforce. Let me just please my master. How many of you are going to work thinking that way? Thinking, how do I work less for more money? So you have today what is outside of the Vedic system. Fifth class. Just where's money and how can I please my senses? That's outside of the Vedic system. So I want you to have that perspective so you can better understand Dhruva Maharaj. Because the history of Dhruva Maharaj is dealing with personalities far beyond the quality of today. Dhruva Maharaj's great-grandfather was Lord Brahma. And his grandfather was Swayambhuva Manu, the son of Brahma. And Dhruva Maharaj's father, who was actually a bit controversial, was Uttanapad, who is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to rule the earth. Swayambhuva Manu had two sons, Priyavrata and Uttanapad, both of them empowered by the Supreme Lord for governing perfectly, protecting the people perfectly. But even though Uttanapad was so exalted, there were some palace intrigues that he was involved with, showing you that even at the topmost level of the material world, there can be problems, there can be intricacies, there can be difficult situations. So by hearing the history of Dhruva Maharaj, you'll understand more that life in this world, even at the topmost levels of the material world, life can be problematic, full of happiness and distress. And you have to learn how to cope with that. So that brings us to today's verse, and then we'll begin our presentation of Dhruva Maharaj, who, remember, shows that you can engage in bhakti even with your material desires. So let us chant 4th canto, chapter 8, text 29. Paritushyet tatastata tavan matrena purusha Daivopasaditam yavat Viksheshvara gatim buddha Paritasyet. One should be satisfied.
One should be satisfied.
Tata
Tata.
Therefore.
Therefore.
Tata.
Tata.
My dear boy.
My dear boy.
Tavat.
Tavat.
Up to such.
Up to such.
Matrena.
Matrena.
Quality.
Quality.
Purusha.
Purusha.
A person.
Person.
Daiva.
Daiva.
Destiny.
Destiny.
Upasaditam.
Upasaditam.
Offered by.
Offered by.
Yavat.
Yavat.
As. Viksha.
Viksha.
Seeing.
Seeing.
Ishvara Gatim.
Ishvara Gatim.
The process of the Supreme.
The process of the Supreme.
Buddha.
Buddha.
One who is intelligent.
One who is intelligent.
Translation.
Translate.
The process of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very wonderful. One who is intelligent should accept that process and be satisfied with whatever comes, favorable or unfavorable, by his supreme will. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The great sage Narada instructed Dhruva Maharaj that one should be satisfied in all circumstances. Everyone who is intelligent should know that because of our concept of bodily existence, we are subjected to suffering and enjoyment. One who is in the transcendental position, beyond the concept of bodily life, is considered to be intelligent. One who is a devotee especially accepts all reverses as gifts of the Supreme Lord. When a devotee is put into distress, he accepts this as God's mercy and offers him repeated obeisances with his body, mind, and intellect. An intelligent person, therefore, should be always satisfied, depending on the mercy of the Lord. Om Gyanachimandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasani Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So in this unfolding of the history of Dhruva Maharaj, you're going to, of course, be informed of Ishvara Gatim, the wonderful process of pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as this verse tells us, that process is very wonderful, because you'll actually be satisfied if you follow it. Dissatisfaction is such a prominent feature of life today, because although people have so many so-called conveniences and technological advancements, they are not satisfied. There are no rules for making money. Just do whatever you can and get money. There are no rules for sense gratification. Just please your senses any way you like, this way, that way, whatever works for the moment. And no one's satisfied. So what we're going to learn is that for a devotee, she doesn't blame Krishna for material reverses, for difficult situations. You understand that is the nature of material existence. Just like when you jump into a pool of water, you're not surprised that you become wet. Similarly, you jumped into the material world, that means there will be happiness and distress. How many of you pray for distress? Raise your hand. But it comes, right? Similarly, your happiness materially, your material happiness will come whether you want it or not, whether you struggle for it or not. How many of you struggle for distress? No one, but it comes. Similarly, and of course, this is explained especially by Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto of Bhagavatam. Similarly, you don't have to endeavor for your happiness, your material happiness. It'll come automatically according to what? According to your karma. So you're in a material body with a material mind, and you're surrounded by happiness and distress coming to you because of your karma. So material existence means to be swimming in an ocean of karmic happiness and distress. But Narada Muni is going to teach Dhruva Maharaj how to rise above that. And in that way you can truly be satisfied. So Prabhupada explains in the purport that, first of all, Narada wants Dhruva to know you should be satisfied in all circumstances. Now we will discuss what Dhruva Maharaj perceived as his problem. Furthermore, Prabhupada writes that everyone who is intelligent, you all consider yourselves intelligent, right? Everyone who's intelligent should know that we're subjected to suffering and enjoyment because of identifying with the body. The material body means it is a bag of happiness and distress coming to you because of your karma. So you shouldn't be surprised when good things or bad things happen to you. But what is beyond happiness and distress? That's what Narada Muni wants Dhruva to experience. But Dhruva is insistent on having a big material desire. He wants something that no one before him has ever had, not even his great-grandfather Brahma, the Lord of creation. Dhruva wants a kingdom better than what Lord Brahma has. He's thinking big. Yet Narada Muni can handle that and engage Dhruva in devotional service. So just think about that goal, whether it's attractive to you to accept and be satisfied, whatever comes materially, favorable or unfavorable, by the will of the Lord. That's the only way you're going to be satisfied, because happiness and distress, both of them, will come. Nothing you can do about it. You'll get your right amount of karmic happiness, and you get your right amount of karmic distress. So please make peace with that point, and then move forward into bhakti. So let's proceed with some beginning history of Dhruva Maharaj, now that we know that the process of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is wonderful. You might say, how can it be wonderful when you're not guaranteed material happiness? But that's like saying, how can you submerge yourself in the ocean and not be guaranteed you'll be always dry? We have to accept responsibility for entering a material body and the material atmosphere. That means happiness, distress, and the mixture of the two. Those three things will always be there. Materially. Material happiness, material distress, and the mixture of the two. So knowing that, let's take a look at what situation Dhruva Maharaj found himself in as the son of Uttanapad. So Uttanapad is on his throne, and he has two sons, Uttama and Dhruva. It seems that that would be a normal situation. And indeed, Uttanapad, like powerful Kshatriyas, and he was a most powerful Kshatriya ruling the whole earth, He had more than one wife. Generally, that's not possible these days. You may know one of the symptoms of Kali Yuga described in the 12th canto Bhagavatam is what? Who knows? Daksham Kutumba Bharanam. In Kali Yuga, in this present age of darkness, if a man can maintain one wife and 2 children, he's considered Daksha, expert. So there's no question of more than one wife. It's a struggle just keeping one and a couple of children. But Uttanapad, being a most powerful monarch, had more than one wife. But one wife was his favorite by far, and the other, Dhruva's mother, was not his favorite, was not Uttanapad's favorite. And that's going to cause problems. You just see, Uttanapad is such an exalted being. He's empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to rule, but still there are family intricacies. Many of you know, you don't talk about it, but many of you know family intricacies and what they're like. You've seen it in your relatives, if you haven't seen it yourself. You've seen it in your neighbors. Of course, it's all swept under the rug. But you know it exists. So this is Uttanapad, and it's pulled out from under the rug by Shukadeva Goswami. You should understand it. So here is Dhruva seeing his half-brother, because one son is born from the wife in favor, and the other son, Dhruva, is born from the wife that's out of favor. So Dhruva, do you think he knows that? He's a little boy. He sees his brother. I mean, how many of you understand family reproduction when you're 5 years old? Children think that babies drop from the sky. I was talking to one 7-year-old boy, and his mother was pregnant with another child. And so I asked him, do you understand what's going on? I pointed to his mother's belly, which was big. Do you understand that someone's there? That your new brother or sister is there? He was like scratching his head. He's thinking. He told him, something's there. I don't know how it got there. So he's totally perplexed. I don't understand. They tell me that inside my mother's belly is a new brother or sister for me. So what does Dhruva, what's he supposed to understand as a little boy? That he is born from the womb of the wife who's out of favor, and that his brother, his half-brother, is born from the wife who is totally cherished and adored by Uttanapad. I know you're thinking, if Uttanapad is such an exalted being, how does he get into these intricacies? But that's the nature of material existence. Even the demigods, the devatas, have intricacies. They got issues. That's why Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill, because Indra had issues. He's the Lord of heaven, but he had issues. Even Brahma becomes bewildered seeing Krishna's pastimes. Is this really my worshipful Lord? He's just a cowherd boy, herding cows, playing a flute. Is this my supreme master? I don't know. So, don't be too hard on Uttanapad. But he's going to do something that he'll greatly regret. His son, Dhruva, is trying to climb on the father's lap, Uttanapad's lap. Why? Because Dhruva sees that his half-brother, which he doesn't understand half-brother, full brother. He just knows my brother Uttam is on my father's lap, and my father's giving him affection. I also want affection. Let me climb on my father's lap. But Uttanapad, the king, didn't welcome Dhruva. Why is that? Who knows? No one knows.
The other one.
Hmm?
The other one was there.
Uttanapad was super attached to his wife Saruchi. And that's the other wife, the one that Dhruva didn't take birth from. And that was Uttanapad's favorite wife, by far. So even though Uttanapad wanted to show affection to Dhruva, he couldn't. Why?
Because his wife didn't allow him to sit on the lap.
Right, his wife would be very upset. And you can hear about that. She's not going to show her anger on Uttanapad, her husband. She's going to show it on Dhruva, a little boy. How horrible. Why does Dhruva have to be experiencing all this complexity? So, Shukadeva Goswami says that she's Sirsham. She's envious of little Dhruva. And she's speaking with great pride. And she's speaking in a way that she makes sure that Uttanapad, her husband, hears. Ladies, when they get angry, they know how to stick the knife in and twist it. Right? They don't want you to see that before marriage. So she's so vicious in this situation that she's going to say horrible things to Dhruva and make sure that Uttanapad, her husband, hears. Now, as we said, Uttanapad was naturally affectionate to both his sons, Uttam and Dhruva. And he wanted to take Dhruva on his lap to be with the brother. But he's afraid. He's attached to Saruchi, and he's afraid she'll be angry. And Saruchi knew this. She knew, you're so attached to me. You better not let this other boy climb on your lap. He's from your other wife. This is horrible, to put a little 5-year-old boy through such an ordeal. So what does she tell Dhruva, speaking out loud so that Uttanapad will hear? My dear child, you don't deserve to sit on the throne or the lap of the king. Yes, you are the son of the king, but you didn't take birth from my womb. Therefore, you are not qualified to sit on your father's lap. This is horrible. But that's what envy and pride will do. So she's letting Dhruva know, but Dhruva's just a little boy. But she wants to make sure you understand the Siddhanta, my perfect conclusion, that you don't have the qualification to sit on the lap of the king or the throne of the king. Basically, she's saying you're an illegitimate child because you didn't take birth from my womb. You took birth from the other wife. And therefore, you have no right to sit on the lap, and you have no right to sit on your father's throne. This is very, very deep and very heavy. And she continues, my dear child, you are unaware that you were born from another woman, not from my womb. Therefore, you should know your attempt to climb on your father's lap is doomed to failure, because you did take birth from my womb. You are trying to fulfill a desire which is impossible to fulfill. What a thing to say to a little boy. Why expose a little boy to all this envy and pride and intricacy? So her pride is just pushing her to go on and on with this. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation in which your pride just carried you away. And you knew you were wrong, but out of pride, you just kept saying something or doing something. That's the nature of material existence. So Saruchi wants Dhruva to understand a distinction that only adults should be aware of. That you were born from the womb of the other wife, not from me. Now she gives her conclusion, which is basically a way of telling Dhruva, you've got to die and take birth again. She says, if you at all desire to ascend, to rise to the throne of your father, here's what you have to do. What is Saruchi talking like this, as if she's a supreme controller? First, undergo severe austerities and satisfy the Supreme Personality of God in Narayan. She's dragging the Supreme Lord into it. And then when you have gained the favor of Narayan, because of such worship, because of such service to Narayan, then in your next birth you might be lucky enough to take birth from my womb. She's indirectly saying, change your body. The nerve of her dragging the Supreme Personality of God into such a situation. Perform severe austerities, get the favor of Narayan, and then maybe, if you have good luck, you might take birth from my womb. Then you have a chance to sit on the lap of your father. Ooh. Can any of you ladies imagine saying such a thing? Telling a child, you've got a big problem. You didn't take birth from my womb. Chant Hare Krishna, and then in your next life you might take birth from my womb. How could you say such a thing to a child? But this is what pride and envy will do. Basically, she's telling Dhruva to die. And the acharyas point out that she's meaning, you die, and your mother, who I hate, my co-wife, she'll be weeping, and then I'll be happy. Horrible. So, how does Dhruva respond to all this? Remember, what occupation is his family? What does that mean, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita? Ishvara Bhava, the desire for controlling and having prestige. Brahmanas aren't worried about prestige, social status, but Kshatriyas are very much concerned. They have an ego, false ego. It's necessary in order to rule. So they're very concerned with their image, their power, their control. So Dhruva, even though he's a little boy, he's coming in a Kshatriya dynasty, a Kshatriya line. So he's going to respond in that way. How is that? He's responding like a snake that's been struck by a stick. I don't know if you've ever been that angry. He's breathing heavily. His anger is producing such a reaction in him. And what makes his anger worse? He sees his father hasn't said anything to correct the wife. That makes it even worse for Dhruva, to be insulted in such a way. And then his father doesn't even intervene. And you're just a little boy. So he immediately leaves the palace and runs to his mother. When he reaches his mother, he's still so angry, his lips are just quivering and trembling. He's crying and crying and crying. So what does a mother do to a little boy when he's in such a state as that?
Give him hug. Give him hug.
Yes, she picks him up, puts him on her lap. Did it ever happen to you? Yes, the sons are always indebted to their mother for giving them shelter when some bad incident has happened. So immediately, Suniti, that's the name of Dhruva's mother, the out-of-favor wife. She lifts Dhruva on her lap, and she's hearing from all the residents of the palace what happened. As she's got Dhruva on her lap, and meanwhile, others are telling her, this happened, Saruchi said this, Uttanapad didn't say a word about it. So she's hearing all that while consoling Dhruva. And how do you think a mother would feel in that situation? See, I want you to get into this whole history and feel it, because number one, you'll understand that material life has its complications, and number two, you'll get a feel for Dhruva's material desires, which are huge. So I don't want you to think this is just some history of Dhruva Maharaj that's just not applicable to your life. I want you to get into it with your feelings. Feel how, ladies especially, you should feel how Suniti, the out-of-favor wife, is feeling. It's unbearable for her to see her child so angry and so mistreated. The mother loves the little child more than she loves herself. And to see that Dhruva is so wounded and so upset, the mother doesn't know what to do. Bhagavatam says she begins to burn as if in a forest fire. The whole situation's unbearable for her. She becomes like a burnt leaf, and she's lamenting. And she's hearing again and again from the palace informers. She's hearing the words of her co-wife, Saruchi. She's overwhelmed with grief and tears. Maybe you've had the experience of someone accusing you of something falsely, and people are telling you, did you hear what was said about you? This was said and that was said. And they just, the more you hear it, the more your heart becomes wounded. So she's like burning in a forest fire. Quite an extraordinary situation. Because she knows my little boy, he doesn't understand all this, yet he's been so mistreated, he's been so wounded by Saruchi telling him, if you want to sit in your father's lap, then you must perform severe austerities, please Narayan, and then you may have an opportunity to take birth from my womb. Horrible. So the Bhagavatam describes that she's breathing very heavily. She has no remedy. She can't think of anything to solve the situation. This reminds you of Bhagavad Gita and who? Arjuna in first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. How many of you have read Bhagavad Gita fully? Raise your hands. Oh, not so many. Do you remember what Arjuna is going through in chapter 1? A situation that is so heavy, so intense. He's telling Krishna, I can't do this. Even though Arjuna's occupation was as a warrior administrator, and he's supposed to stand up and protect the innocent, that's his dharma, his occupational dharma. But he didn't want to do it. Why? Because he was related to some of the people on the other side who were distant relatives, former teachers, friends. So he didn't want to hurt them, even though these people had done wrong. Suppose, I like to give this example. Suppose someone broke into your house, home invader, and was attacking your family and stealing everything in your house, and then the police fortunately show up, and right at that time. And you're expecting the police to arrest the people, the criminals, right? Suppose the policeman says, I don't know if I can do this. One of the criminals is my third cousin. I don't know if I can do this. You'd be shocked, right? But that's what Arjuna was doing. Yes, he was being soft-hearted, but Krishna's going to point out, this is misapplication of sympathy and compassion. You're supposed to stand up for the innocent, even though the criminals may be known to you and related to you, still you have to do your duty. You have to stand up for justice. And Arjuna was saying, I can't do it. He would tell Krishna, as you can read in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, if we win the war against us, if we win the war and conquer them, we'll be lamenting because they'll be dead and we're related to them. If they conquer us, we'll be lamenting because we lost. Either way is a problem. Therefore, Govinda, I shall not fight. So sometimes these heavy situations in life come that all your options look bad. Arjuna says this to Krishna, I don't know what's better, to conquer them or be conquered by them. Each option looks bad. So Dhruva is in such a situation, as well as his mother, Suniti. So she's crying, she's feeling like she's in a forest fire, and of course she's breathing very heavily, and she doesn't know any relief for the situation. But what's the first thing she says in that situation of great grief and despair? What's the first thing she says? Showing that she's such a saintly person. She tells Dhruva, don't wish bad on anyone. Because that would be your natural tendency, right? I hate this person. I'm going to get back at that person. Sometimes, unfortunately, when devotees get angry at another devotee, they get so angry, but they express it in a devotee way. That, isn't it time for you to go back to Godhead? Don't do that. They think this is a lofty way of saying, I wish you were dead. Don't do it. And that's the first instruction from Suniti, that don't wish bad on anyone. And that anyone who wishes bad for others will themselves undergo pain. She's instructing Dhruva, don't find fault in your stepmother, the other wife. you're experiencing the results of sins done in a previous lifetime. And it's coming back to you. And she's going to explain about herself that she's an outcast wife. She's rejected wife. She says, that's my karma written on my forehead by the will of providence. So I've got to go through what I've got to go through. You've got to go through what you've got to go through. She tries to explain to Dhruva about his father, her husband. She says, the king, your father, does not consider me his wife. He doesn't even consider me his maidservant. And therefore, he's ashamed to accept you, and he's ashamed, certainly, to accept me. So it's a fact. You've taken birth from the womb of an unfortunate woman. So how is Dhruva going to respond to this? Because Suniti's conclusion to Dhruva is going to be that actually your stepmother, Suruchi, the co-wife, has spoken factually, although very harshly. If you want to sit on the same throne as your brother Uttama, then you have to immediately try to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without further delay, you must engage yourself in devotional service to the Supreme Lord. So in other words, Suniti, the outcast wife, the rejected wife, is confirming that the wife in favor, Suruchi, spoke. There was truth to her words about pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though the words were spoken very harshly. So think about this. Such an incident shows you that even reversals and bad situations can be used in your favor. Suniti is saying, use this situation to propel you forward in devotional service. If you want revenge, if you want to sit as king, then Suruchi has propelled you into devotional service. She's right. That the only option you have is for pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So indirectly, she's done you the greatest favor. What do you think about that? By the influence of Suruchi's words, her insults, her horrible things she said, Dhruva will become a great devotee. What do you think of that? This is how extraordinary bhakti is, that even reverses and bad situations can be used in your favor. What are some of the worst things that could happen to you? Illness, losing all your money, not getting PR, failing the English test 10 times. Even all of that, those greatest tragedies, can be used in Krishna's service. Can be used to push you forward in your progress in gaining the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So just think, even those horrible words by Suruchi have value. That's what Suniti, the other wife, is pointing out. Dhruva, this lady told you correctly, even though harshly. You have to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then you'll be eligible to sit on the lap of your father. So I wonder, maybe some of you have already had situations in which they seem to be a disaster, but the situations pushed you forward in serving Krishna. This is how extraordinary bhakti is, that even defeat, even reversals, even failures can turn out to be the greatest success. And that's what's going to happen to Dhruva. The words of Saruchi are going to push him to become a great devotee. So maybe in your life, as I said, some situations already happened. Maybe some illness, some accident, car accident, something. And that made you turn to Krishna. Maybe when you came to Australia, you were so lonely and didn't know what to do. Couldn't find anything decent to eat. So you thought, let me go to the temple. Incidents like this happen to everyone. So Dhruva's mother tells him, don't hate Saruchi, the co-wife. Don't worry about me. It was my destiny to suffer as the out-of-favor wife. Don't hate Saruchi. And then she explains Dhruva's ancestors, his predecessors. His grandfather was Swayambhuva Manu, who pleased the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His great-grandfather was Brahma, who attained the greatest success by meditating on the feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So his mother is telling him, this is the line you're coming in. The line of the greatest devotees. In this way, the mother is inspiring the son to get the mercy of the Supreme Lord. To have a mother like that is the greatest benediction. How many of you had mothers who told you, serve Krishna, engage in Krishna's service? Raise your hand. So that's the rarest kind of mother you can have in the material world. My mother was not quite like that. Some of you may know. Some years ago, she confided in me. She said, do you know what I was thinking while you were being conceived? I said, no. Sannyasi, I don't think about such things. She said, I was praying to God to send me his servant. So I said, well, maybe slightly, partially, a tiny bit, your prayer was fulfilled, just a little bit. And what do you think she said next? She said, but I meant for Jesus, not Krishna. So I told her, next time, be more specific. So to have a mother, to have a father who inspires you in bhakti, that's the rarest birth in the material world. Krishna explains that in Bhagavad Gita. What do materialistic parents say? How do they encourage you? Go to Australia, get the PR, make money, teach your children to do the same. But you're wondering, yes, you want to make money. You want prosperity. How does that combine with bhakti? But wait till you hear about Dhruva's revenge that he wants. We'll be discussing that. But first, any questions? We'll continue with Dhruva's, what he wants in revenge. He's not a pure devotee at this point. He wants the biggest of all, the biggest material desires of all. He has that. So any questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
So my question is,
Wait for me.
so my question is like a lot of time we have like difficult situation as you said. So naturally we think like, oh, I have to kill him or send him to Godhead. We never think.
Most of the time I miss that. What's that?
Yeah, like all the time we think like, oh, we have to kill him or make him any harm,
We have
possible
to
harm.
we have to do any harm to that person or kill him.
You want to?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
So how to bring that consciousness like we can reverse that thing.
Want the best for that person, and it's hard. But you'll develop mind and sense control by properly handling such a situation. You want to tell them, time for you to go back to God here. You want to say that, but saying harsh words, the echo lasts for many decades. People don't forget harsh words. Are you a married man?
2 kids as well.
Yes. Do you know what it's like if you somehow or other said harsh words to your wife? Never forgotten. 50 years later, you're going to hear about it. And what about when she gets angry? You're supposed to forget it immediately. Right? So you have to control your senses. It's hard because you feel wronged. You feel like Dhruva, a snake that's been struck by a stick. You want to strike back like a snake. Well, you step on a snake, it'll bite you. To control that takes great effort. Because you want to wish ill to that person. You can't get back at that person, so you can't attack the person, so you think, I wish you would die in a car accident. You're so angry, right? Breathing heavily. But this is the power of bhakti, that you can handle such a situation. It takes effort. To wish the best for that person and to accept that because of my karma, I'm in such a situation. That takes knowledge and sense control. What is the nature of the material world? As soon as someone disrespects you, you want to attack. Individuals are like that, nations are like that. What happens if Pakistan has been suspected of doing something to India? Everyone, ah! If Pakistan wins the cricket match, ah! Kill them, kill them. Burn them in effigy at least. This rage in us can become so destructive. So we have to learn how to control that by chanting Hare Krishna. Our own family members can sometimes make us so angry because they're dear to us, and when they disappoint us, we just get so angry. Anger means frustrated material desires. You're not acting in a way that I want, therefore I'm angry. And you're supposed to be so dear to me, yet you're not fulfilling my desires, therefore I'm so angry. If you don't want anger, don't have material desires. Material desires can never be fulfilled. Therefore there'll always be anger when you have material desires. But Dhruva is going to, we'll talk about it this evening, he is going to have the biggest material desires, but he takes shelter completely of Muni, and his desires become transformed. That's how powerful bhakti is. So if you don't want to be a slave of lust, anger, and greed, you engage in devotional service. And teach your family the same. then it's a transcendental family, not an ordinary family. Real grihastas. And that gives your children the greatest opportunity in the material world. To grow up with a father who's a bhakta. Just like our Shyam Sundar, where is he? There he is. He's grown up with a mother and father who are devotees. Give your child that greatest luxury. You cannot control what the child will do when the child's an adult, but at least it's your responsibility to do your best to raise the child in the young years in a way that the child is a devotee of Krishna. And as Krishna says, that's the rarest birth in the material world. If you can have children and raise them in that way, please have 200 children. You can afford it. Anything else? Yes.
Is it possible to get moksha in Kali Yuga?
You can get more than moksha in Kali Yuga. You can get service to Krishna, which is beyond moksha. Service to Krishna is in the 5th category. Beyond moksha. Moksha means just relief from material existence. But then what do? Where's the love? Where's the activity of perfection? So devotional service is beyond even moksha. It's in the 5th category. That's why when you hear about Lord Chaitanya, you hear that he gave, what is it, level number 5, Prema Pumarto Mahan. He gave love of Krishna, which is in category 5, beyond the 4 ingredients of material civilization. When you're chanting Hare Krishna, when you're hearing about Krishna, engaged in Krishna service, taking Krishna prasad, that's beyond moksha. Anything else? Nothing else. Yes, in the back.
Krishna Maharaj, so to bring intensity in bhakti, what would be the main ingredient?
Association. You become like whom you associate with. Birds of a feather flock together. You associate with the swans, you become a swan. You take on the mentalities of those who you're rubbing shoulders with. Just like you come here this weekend. By the association, your intensity will increase. You'll hear about Dhruva Maharaj and you'll think, there's hope for me. I have material desires, but I can still engage in Krishna's service. Right? Otherwise, as I said, so many of you are thinking, oh, this bhakti, this Krishna consciousness is very nice, but I want some things in this world. So you may think it's all or nothing. Either you are a pure devotee or you're a materialist. No in between. But you'll hear about Dhruva's desires. His desires, his mother is telling him, think about your grandfather, Swayambhuva Manu. Think about your great-grandfather, Brahma. They all please the Supreme Lord. And what you want is more than what any demigod, any devata can give. So automatically his mother is telling him, don't even think about approaching the devatas with your desires. They cannot grant you such desires, And whatever desires they can grant are, what they get is temporary, and it's all material. But even though you want something material, it's too big for even the devatas to give. Therefore, engage in Krishna's service. Anything else?
I have a question.
Yeah, very good. I always have to tell the ladies, this is Australia, you can speak up.
I'll take the microphone just to add.
Oh, very good, assertive.
I had a question for the outcast wife. She's now, she wants to stay as the outcasted wife, or she's just understood that's her path in life. But can she change her outcome in this lifetime?
What do you mean by change your outcome?
Because she
Win the king's favor again?
or maybe leave the king and find another king.
I've been waiting for someone to say that. I know, this is the new India. So throw that guy out, huh?
Yeah, I would take my son and then I would leave.
Ditch him.
Yeah. Yes,
You ever seen these ladies in Australia walking around with t-shirts that say, ditch him? There's another mantra the ladies in Australia use. You may not know it yet. It goes like this. And when you leave him, don't get angry. Get everything. What do you think of that?
That's great, because why be second best?
But I think it's not good. Women should be married only with one man and stay with that man.
Yes, but he had 2 wives, so.
But he's able to maintain 2 wives.
Yes, but not the problems.
Huh?
Not the problems from the 2 wives.
Yes, but it's true, he's wrong. And he will lament later.
Yes.
But that you're jumping ahead. But I'll tell you, he will lament.
Okay, so she can't leave.
She's got better things on her mind. She's a devotee. She wants to go back to Godhead. And because of the instructions she gave to her son, Dhruva, she's functioning like his introductory guru before Narada Muni. So when Dhruva goes back to Godhead, he takes her with him.
Perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So you changed your conclusion.
Yes, I think that's much better to go back with your son to Godhead than worry about the king.
I see. Reminds me of, I was doing a program and there were about 15 ladies from Melbourne Uni there. None of them from India. And so I was asking them, they're in their early 20s. And so I was asking, so what do you think you'll be doing when you're 28? And almost all of them said, oh, we'll be having a child. So I said, oh, you mean you'll be married? They looked at me like I was crazy. Marriage? Who needs a man? We'll have the child and that's all. You don't need a man. This is Kali Yuga, the age of darkness. We don't want to be bothered with a man. We just want the child. It's horrible. So Suniti was able to give the best guidance to her son. You want something that the devatas cannot fulfill. You come to me crying, wanting relief. But I know someone who's more affectionate than millions of mothers. Dhruva wants to know, who's that? It's Krishna. Where do you find him? She said, I've heard that great saintly persons find Vishnu in the forest. Dhruva was gone. He was that determined. Immediately, upon his mother's advice, he left for the forest at 5 years old. So we can learn from his determination. All Lord Chaitanya, Krishna as Lord Chaitanya is asking us to do is chant Hare Krishna. And we have difficulty doing that. Saying 3 words, Hare Krishna Rama. Oh, I'm so busy. No time. No determination. That's why hearing about Dhruva is so important. Anything else?
Yeah. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Maharaj, my question is related to happiness. So in this material world, everyone was said like we are getting happiness, just like temporary happiness. But when it comes to permanent happiness, how to achieve that permanent happiness and how to consistently maintain that permanent happiness?
Then you have to enroll in the Bhakti Academy. Because as long as you do material activities, there'll always be material happiness and material distress. Dhruva has material desires, huge desires. He wants a kingdom bigger than even Lord Brahma's kingdom. What to speak of Swayambhuva Manu. This is the hugest material desire. But still, he can be transformed by the expert spiritual master, Narada Muni. Dhruva will follow Narada Muni's instructions. So if you follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions, follow the instructions of Srila Prabhupada's representatives, you'll be transformed. Otherwise, you'll be plagued by the onslaught, the comings and goings of material happiness and distress. That's all that you can look forward to materially.
Thank you.
The intelligent person wants better than that. How to deal with the problem of material existence, with its constant flowing river of happiness and distress. You can only properly deal with that flow by Krishna consciousness. Then you're out of the river. The river continues to flow, but you're not identifying with it. You have something better. That doesn't mean devotees never feel sad or cry. Someone dear to them has died, or someone that you know is undergoing a painful situation. But you have a human side, so you cry, but you also know that this is the way of material existence, these comings and goings, and that the person is an eternal spirit soul. You are an eternal spirit soul. You have higher knowledge. Higher knowledge leads to a higher lifestyle. Otherwise, material life means, oh, what's the next problem that's going to come? I passed the English test, now they're sending me out to some Darwin or someplace in the middle of nowhere. What am I going to do? I hear all these problems all the time. I want to marry this girl, but my parents don't like her. I want to marry that man, but he's from the wrong caste. He is from South India, I'm from North India, what to do? Anything else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have one more question.
Let's see, but I think you raised your hand? No, he already asked. You can be assertive.
I just want to ask, how do you surrender during the adversities of your life?
How do?
Surrender to the higher power during the adversities of life and still keep fueling your passion and chasing your dreams?
Still keep?
Fueling your passion.
What kind of passion?
Anything that like fuels your purpose, makes you happy and content.
No. The more you try to fulfill your material purpose, the more you are suffering. Because you have to struggle for something that's actually out of your control. You can't get more than your karma allows. But you think, I am the doer. It's all up to me. So it's a very special way of living to be a Krishna conscious person. You do your duty, but you know that the results are up to Krishna, rather than it's all up to me. And you can think like that because Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna is the center of your life. Otherwise it's impossible to not act materially. So yes, you can try your best to do your best. That's all right. But don't forget what is your real mission in human life. So Dhruva had big material desires, but he listened to Narada Muni, his spiritual master, who told him, this is what you do if you want such a material result. But by following the instructions of Narada Muni, as we'll hear later, Dhruva got something beyond what he could ever imagine. He got Krishna. And then he'll say, what a fool I was to want material things. I was like a person who just wanted broken pieces of glass, and now I have the greatest jewel. I don't want anything material. I just want the association of devotees who are always talking about Krishna. We'll get into that more tomorrow. So what is your passion?
I'm still figuring that out. I know a few things, but still figuring a lot of things out.
Your passion can't be as big as Dhruva's.
Of course not.
Add Krishna to your life, and Krishna will sort you out.
Thank you.
He's more, as Dhruva's mother is telling him, you come to me crying, grieving, so sad, so angry, but even though you're coming to me, I have to tell you there's someone more affectionate than millions of mothers like me. What do you say about that? Can't conceive of that, can you? Krishna's affection toward his devotees is beyond what we could ever conceive of. He's known as Bhritya Vatsala, always affectionate to his devotees. So he's going to give Dhruva what Dhruva wants. But Dhruva's going to say, what a fool, I don't want this now. I just want your service. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. You'll be here?
Yes.
Okay. Last question. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful class, Maharaj. Maharaj, my question is regarding, like, now that by God's mercy, most of my association is of devotees, So sometimes we have some like outside of the devotees when we go out, and I get some like I said karma from the people outside the association.
What do you mean?
Like Maharaj, my patience gets tested outside. My patience gets
At
tested.
work or school?
Yes.
At work.
Work, school, everywhere. But most of so how to still be maintain the feeling of gratitude towards the fact that I'm still getting the association of people. Getting when I get back home, I don't have to stress all of them. At the same time, I react to things instead of just taking it in a positive way.
Taking what in a positive way? Problems at work, problems at school?
Maybe. Yeah.
Your heart is not into that. Your heart is into devotional service. But these other things you're doing in order to maintain your devotional life. You need to go to school, you need to work for reasons of supporting your bhakti lifestyle. Look at it in that way. So you're working and going to school?
That's right.
So you're doing that for what purpose?
To maintain the lifestyle for Krishna.
Yes, so therefore, then knowing that, you can be more tolerant and patient. You're not doing it because, I gotta have more. I want to buy more. I want a bigger this, a bigger that. That's not the best way to go to work or to study. Now, Dhruva is like that. But he's taking advice from Narada Muni. Narada Muni doesn't challenge that completely. Narada Muni knows this is a child. What Dhruva wants is childish. Okay, but let me teach him how to serve Krishna. So even you can have such material desires, but if you engage in Krishna's service, Krishna knows how to deal with you. So that you're transformed. So therefore, as Bhagavatam says, akama savakamo va moksha kamo dharati. Whether you are full of material desires, free from material desires, or want moksha, freedom from material existence, just engage in Krishna's service. Krishna will take care of you. So whether you may be going to work and school because you want a big career, still engage in Krishna's service. You may be going to school and work because you just want to support a bhakti lifestyle. Fine. Engage in Krishna's service. Whatever, whether you're full of material desires or free from material desires, engage in Krishna's service. All right?
Thank you much.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.